is Town Clerk Ann Webster is going to be admitted into the meeting to swear in our new Select Board members.
I guess I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann. Hi. Okay. Then congratulations to all the people running for office who won this time. And I have 2 oaths here, and you should have received an email from me with the hard copy that you can print out. And once you take the oath, if you can just fill those in and sign them and get them back to me, then we can record them. That'd be great. So I'm just going to ask Hugh Fahad Khan and Lindsay Fuentes George and Esther Thomas, if you do solemnly swear or affirm that you'll be true and faithful to the state of Vermont and that you will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof, so help you God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
I do.
I do.
All right. Now further ask Fahad Khan, Lindsay Fuentes George, and Esther Thomas, if you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll faithfully execute your duties as a member of the Select Board for the town of Middlebury and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of your judgment and ability, according to law, so help you God, or under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
I do.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for serving. And now
Thank
you're
you,
all
Ann.
legal. Okay.
Thank you.
A little more underwhelming than in person.
Okay, next up is I'll take nominations for the position of board chair. Please.
Well,
I nominate Brian.
and I second Brian.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the position of chair? Hearing none, all those in favor of electing Brian Carpenter, chair for the Select Board for the next session, please signal by saying aye or thumbs up. There we go. And it's unanimous. So Brian, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, well, guess I thank the board. I don't know if anybody does want to be chair. I know we've had a little discussion. We should be talking about future. And as we look at that, I'm looking for a nomination for vice chair. Lindsay?
Yeah, I was hoping to, well, first let me start by saying that there are a couple people on here that I would absolutely support. I think we have a great team of people who have incredible skills and leadership ability. I was hoping to renominate Heather this time, in part because I am really impressed with her leadership on infrastructure. I just find her to be somebody who takes the time to listen to everybody. She is, she's not afraid to wade in on some of the harder conversations that we've had. And I find that to be, you know, a really important skill, you know, for board leadership. And I also feel like this has been a really hard and strange year to be vice chair. You know, I've had some conversations with some of you that I sort of view the vice chair position as a chance for, you know, various ones of us to sort of learn the ropes a little bit. And I think that this has been a really hard year to make the best use of the vice chair position. So for that reason, I think it would be great to let her do it again and hope that we can do some of this in person. She can have the chance to actually be in the vice chair position for, you know, a full year in person. If you add the bit she got, plus hopefully the bit we'll get at the end of this year, then it should equal, it should add up. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Lindsay.
Okay, is there a second to that nomination?
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Are there any other nominees?
Well, Brian and fellow board members, I had actually given this a lot of thought too. And I know the other person that Lindsay's referring to is our esteemed colleague Farhad Khan. I didn't really know Farhad until he came on the board, but I'm just constantly impressed with his really deep way of thinking and seeing the big picture, and he's a visionary. And so I actually was going to nominate him tonight. But as Lindsay pointed out, and is very fairly true, is that this was just one of those weird, quirky years. And I think Heather has a lot more capability in her that never really quite was realized this year. So I would see, Fahad maybe the next year, but I think for the present year facing, I would endorse Heather.
Farhad?
Yeah, I agree with Nick and Lindsay. I actually, until this afternoon, I was going for it until I spoke to Heather. And when Heather explained to me the reason she wanted to run again, and that convinced me, and it doesn't make sense to compete with somebody on a level that we are working together, so I support her.
Okay. Heather?
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all of your kind words and thoughts. It was a tough decision because I do really want to see other people have the opportunity for leadership roles on the board. And I appreciate your considering my thoughts in this. And I do really hope that we'll rotate more often and give other people opportunities. So Farhad, if you're interested, I'm certainly willing to support you and in the next time around, and also anyone else who might be interested too, so that we all have a shot at learning some of the ropes involved with leading the board. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Maybe next year.
Well, I appreciate the collegial attitude, and so we should have an official vote. So everyone supporting Heather for vice chair, please thumbs up. Okay, unanimous. Excellent. Next is approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Nick, seconded by Lindsay. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Kathleen, anything change on this?
Nothing has changed. Do want to note that we are scheduled for an executive session on real estate and legal matters.
Okay. All right, all in favor of approving the agenda as drafted, signify with a thumbs up. Okay, next is approval of the minutes of our special select board meeting of February 22nd.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes to those draft minutes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as drafted, signify with a thumbs up. Okay, and we have one abstention who was not in that meeting. Citizen comments. It's an opportunity if somebody is attending the meeting and has something that is not on the agenda. Chris, is there anyone with their hand up?
Brian, it looks like Laura has her hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say how thrilled I am to see Esther on the board. So welcome. And I just want to also say how much I appreciated the board's selection of me for the interim time that I had. And that, again, I'm just so impressed. I am so very impressed with this board. And tonight's deliberation is an example of, again, of the quality of this board, to hold such thoughtful and meaningful conversation. I'm so impressed. So I just want to wish you good deliberation as you go into your planning, especially your priorities for the upcoming year, and just say, I'm going to be with you and I'm here for you in committee support or any other way that I can help you. Always thinking of you and wishing you well.
Okay, thank you, Laura. For a second, I thought you were going to say good riddance. So,
Thank you, Laura.
okay, is there anyone else there, Chris?
All for now, Brian.
Okay, then we will move on to board organization. And our first item is setting a regular meeting date. And we have for many years now scheduled our regular meeting as the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Does that still work for everyone? Okay,
Yes.
if that works for everyone, then I would seek a motion for us to vote on.
I'll move to set the select board's regular meeting date and time as the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, thumbs up. All right. Okay, next is to adopt our expenditure review roster. We've gone to rotating review, and Kathleen had prepared a draft select board expenditure review roster, which also doubles as the board's meeting calendar for your consideration. If just so you know, if someone doesn't work with you, we've been swapping, I think has been the traditional, if you're not going to be around for a particular meeting. So there, it seems to be, it's worked. I think we've done it now for 2 years, Kathleen.
Yes.
Yeah. If that works for everybody, then I would seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021 select board expenditure review roster.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, thumbs up. Next is review and sign the 2021 Select Board Operating Principles. The operating principles of the Select Board reflect board members' collective commitment to a set of leadership practices in relationship to the community, the town manager, fellow board members, and town staff that support the efficient use of Middlebury's municipal government, efficient operation of Middlebury's municipal government. The operating principles are posted on the select board page on the town's website. And I think they have served us well. It came out of several years ago, deliberation of the board. I almost think, did that come out of a retreat, Kathleen?
Yes. Yes.
And, I think it helps guide us and especially helps us understand what the expectations are. And if everybody's good with that, I'd seek a motion to adopt the 2021 operating principles.
I'll move to adopt the 2021 Select Board Operating Principles.
Second.
All in favor, thumbs up. Dan?
I just want to make a couple of comments. Number one, I really like these operating principles. It's almost worthy of me to read them about once a month. It just reminds me how I have to vote, how I have to, who I represent, and how I have to act. And it's been extremely useful knowing that. I also think maybe at some time we might want to make some mention in there of the work that we've been doing under DEI. Maybe the DEI committee might want to make some addition to that in the future. I wouldn't hold it up tonight, but that would certainly be something I'd recommend possibly be included.
Okay, that might come out of our DEI work. That's good idea, Dan. Okay. I don't think I heard it. I did hear a motion. All in favor, signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next, we need to adopt a newspaper of record, and each year the board must designate a newspaper of record for publication of official notices of the town. The Addison Independent is currently the publication of record. Pleasure of the board.
I move to designate the Addison Independent as the newspaper of record for the publication of official notices of the town of Middlebury.
Second.
Okay. And is there anybody who wants to comment on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next, we need to appoint a Middlebury delegate and alternate to Addison County Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors. And Kathleen has got a potential candidate for the delegate and alternate position, Kathleen?
Right, we do have one. Andy Hooper is happy to serve as the town's representative this year. He was the alternate last year. We do not have a candidate for the alternate position yet, but both Andy as the new representative, if you appoint him so, and Eric Murray, your former representative to the Solid Waste District, are looking for candidates for that alternate position.
Okay, and we will have an opportunity as we verify our committees at the next one to potentially appoint someone to that. So if the board is in agreement, I would seek a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to appoint Andy Hooper as Middlebury's delegate to the Addison County Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify with a thumbs up. And the last appointment we need to make this evening is the Green Up Coordinator. 2020 Green Up Coordinator Caleb Bassa has indicated he's willing to act as our 2021 coordinator if the board is amenable. We've invited Caleb to join the meeting, and if he's there, Chris, can you bring him into our, there we go.
I don't see him.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Caleb.
Hey.
And you're interested in and willing to be our Green Up Coordinator for 2021, Caleb?
I am interested in being the program or the Green Up Coordinator again. I kind of cut out there as I reloaded.
Okay. Yep. Are there any questions from the board? And if not, the pleasure of the board.
I move to appoint Caleb Bassa as Middlebury's Green Up Day Coordinator for 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Then all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Caleb, we thank you. Look forward to hopefully more people can get out easily this year.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Okay, thank you. Next item is approval of first, second, and third class liquor licenses, outside consumption permits, and entertainment permits. We have 3 that are submitted for approval this evening. A first, third, and outside consumption for Middlebury Hearth LLC, doing business as American Flatbread. A first, second, and outside consumption with Otter Creek Brewing Company LLC. And outside consumption only with Freestyle Brewing Company, which is Drop-In Brewing. There's a couple things that are needed. Middlebury Hearth needs one additional signature. Freestyle Brewing already has an approved first-class license, and the current one is renewal for their outside consumption. All 3 submissions have approved inspections from police and fire chiefs.
Brian, Ann Webster has her hand up.
Okay, Ann.
Just wanted to say that the additional signature that I needed, I already have in place. So that has arrived.
Okay, thanks, Ann. All right then, pleasure of the board. Nick, you're muted. Nick, you're muted.
Well, yeah, I just had to find the right button. Buttons everywhere here. I think when we all get together to meet, I'm going to just have this inclination to want to push a button anyway, and hope that doesn't last long. Anyway, I move to approve the 2021 liquor license applications as presented by our town clerk and Webster. First and third class liquor license and outside consumption permit for Middlebury Hearth LLC. A first and second class liquor license and outside consumption permit for Otter Creek Brewing Company LLC. And an outside consumption permit for Freestyle Brewing Company LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? All right, all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Chris, can you bring Chief Hanley in with us? Chief's going to give us a local emergency management update, and then he'll flow right from that after answering any of your questions into some ordinance amendments. Chief?
Hi, it's your regular Tuesday night visitor. It's becoming. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape here in our area for COVID. It's a little disturbing to see that we're still getting a regular amount of new cases, even here in Middlebury. I don't know what to do about that. We've gotten a few complaints about non-compliance with the governor's orders. We address each and every one of them and got a very cooperative response from the folks we talked to. So we're encouraged with that. The vaccinations are going well. They're steamrolling along. They're looking at, by the end of this month, 35,000 vaccinations per week in the state. And I suspect it may even go more than that if Johnson & Johnson begins supplying us. We've got a 2-week lag in J&J vaccinations for whatever manufacturing issues, whatever it is. But once that starts coming along, you're going to see a lot going on. The folks that are age 16 and up who have special health considerations, mostly things having to do with lungs and breathing, are going to start on Thursday. That's an early start. They weren't supposed to start till next week. And next week we'll get word on the folks that are in BIPOC communities as to when they can start in a special category. What'll happen there is they'll still be following the age bands. However, all members of the family of that person can get vaccinated as well, regardless of age. Well, 16 and up, they don't do below 16. So that's encouraging news. They're just following the science and where the infections are occurring and trying to address that to reduce the deaths and hospitalizations. So while their numbers go up and down like a roller coaster week to week, we're not getting any of these huge spikes that we saw between Halloween and January. And that's encouraging. And of course, the more these vaccinations come out, the fewer people are going to get infected. So we're in good shape. The police department has now reached a state of full immunization. So we're good. The dispatchers start at the end of the month. So things are looking good.
Any questions of Chief? Okay, well, thanks, Chief. You've been having a lot of news lately, so keep us informed. It's changing rapidly right now.
Yeah, we're starting to push the bulletins out a little more than we were a couple of weeks ago. Every day I get new stuff. We're on a briefing with this one and that one and the health department. So trying to keep everybody informed as to what is going on.
Yeah, certainly appreciate it. Okay, why don't you lead us into the recommendations from the Public Health and Safety Committee?
Yeah, there's a bunch of ordinances. These go back about 2 years now with some of these changes. COVID, like trying to buy a refrigerator or a stove, has put things on hold for months and months and months. So this is catch-up time. But fortunately, most of them are fairly simple. There's nothing controversial about them. The first two, the alcohol on public property and the noise ordinance, are not substantively changed. We're just converting them to a civil ordinance rather than a criminal ordinance. Prosecutor has been kind of reluctant to be jamming up cases in court with criminal ordinance. These had been retained as criminal ordinances because at the time they were enacted, people didn't have to identify themselves for a civil ordinance. So we were issuing John Doe tickets. You know, it was a waste of time. So that has been changed by law. They have to identify themselves now. So I'm happy that we can more effectively employ whatever strategies we need in these to take care of these two ordinances. So that's the only changes there. Commercial activity on public property.
Hey,
this
Chief.
was developed about 2 years ago when we thought we were going to get some interest in some of those rent-a-bikes motorbikes or rental scooters, whatever they are, Bird and Lyft and some of those companies. And I understand we may have, just Kathleen could probably correct me on this, we may have gotten some interest recently by somebody. So the ordinance is ready to go, and it's simply all it does is require them to be licensed by the town. So that we'd have to look at some way to do that in the future if they wanted to do it. Just to give us some regulation over where they can and can't place these bikes, these scooters. So that's really the only change to that ordinance. The bicycle ordinance had some conflicts in it that we've corrected. There's a bunch of little changes in that. We got away from specific identities on what a rideable device is because of the changing technology, whether they're riding a motorized scooter or whether they're one of those things that look like a ball with a board on the top. I don't even know what they are. But we wanted to stay away like the statutes do, the state statutes, and try to identify each and every device. So we've kind of homogenized it a little bit just so we could have a workable ordinance without trying to chase around technology. And those are the changes there. The other big change was in the bike ordinance. We raised the age for kids to ride the bike on the sidewalks up to age 10, as opposed to, we thought 7 was too young in just kind of a practical application. We also changed the word from they have to be with a parent to they have to be with a caretaker, whoever that happens to be. So you got babysitters and things. So we try to, it's just an update to the ordinance, and there's really nothing in that that's changed other than that. Then we got on to the 3 most recent ordinances that the Public Safety Committee endorsed in December. One is academic. It adopts the changes in speed limits in East Middlebury that were changed by the state so that our ordinance mirrors what the state speed limits are. And there's a lot of detail in that, but it's essentially identical to what the state changed the ordinance to. That allows us to write tickets on municipal ordinance or a state statute. And sometimes it's a little easier procedural wise to deal with the municipal ordinance. So we just mirror those ordinances, state laws. And then we've got the changes to Merchants Row, conversion of that street to a one-way street. And things that are up for discussion really are the issue of whether there should be yield signs or stop signs at the top of Merchants Row at South Pleasant Street and at Court Square. We as a committee felt that at least the one going onto Court Square should be a yield sign because you're crossing 2 or 3 lanes of traffic as in addition to a crosswalk. And so we wanted to have a more compelled stop there as opposed to a yield sign. There is currently a stop sign on the other wing that goes to South Pleasant Street, which doesn't have the traffic conflicts. I think we decided that that would be okay to leave as a yield sign. However, there is a stop sign there now that the state put up. So I would leave that up to whatever comes out of a public hearing for that. We make no recommendation either way. And finally, I think I got most of them. Oh, collection and disposal of solid waste, fires and burning. Dave Shaw and I have had long conversations about the open burning ordinance. It really was unclear. It was difficult to enforce. We didn't know what the difference was with a fire pit or an open burn. They weren't defined. So we developed specific definitions on what an open burn is and what a contained burn, we call it, is. If it's in a container, and we defined in the ordinance what constitutes a contained burn. In other words, there's some specifics in there. If it's not burned in one of those containers or in that kind of setup, then it's an open burn and you need a permit. It just allows us to enforce this a little better. I think it clarifies for the public as to what is what, because we've got an awful lot of confusion on what's an open burn, what needs a permit, what doesn't need a permit. So I think we've clarified that. And we've removed the open burning section out of the collection and disposal of solid waste ordinance and just created a separate ordinance for that. So the changes to the collection and disposal of solid waste are just the removal of anything having to do with open burning in that ordinance. And they're all civil ordinances. The other thing the burning ordinance does, if somebody's in violation and the fire department has to respond to put the fire out, then they are liable to be charged for that by the fire department to collect the cost for doing that. And I ran through these, but I think that's all there is. That is in toto.
Okay, thank you, Chief. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 9A, alcohol and public property. We'll go through them one at a time, and as we have a motion and prepare to vote. If you have questions of Chief, that's a good time to ask about that particular one, okay? So we'll just take them one at a time. First is the recommendation on alcohol on town property.
So I'll move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for restricting alcoholic beverage use on town property as presented.
Second.
Okay, and Heather?
Chief, can you talk a little bit about how the maximum penalty and the waiver penalties work and how they were determined? I just noticed a little bit of inconsistency between the different, like the alcohol one is a maximum of 800, but with a waiver of 100, but the noise is a maximum of 800, but a waiver of 200, and then I think the bike is 100. And so anyway, it doesn't matter so much. I'm just curious how they came about, and if there's some opportunity to get some consistency there, or if there's a guideline for how those are figured out.
Yeah, the 800 is established by statute. So that's fixed by statute. That's the maximum fine that can be assessed per incident for all these ordinances. You'll notice they all have an $800 maximum. The $200 is a waiver fine. In other words, if you decide to plead no contest or just plead guilty and you want to mail in the fine, that's the fine you mail it in. If you want to contest it, you go to court and you could have a fine that ranges from $2 to $800. That's how it is. So that's generally how it is. We set the fines based on what we viewed as the potential severity. Some of these are the fines that have always been that way. We didn't see any reason to change them, just on the severity of the offense.
So I would just comment that I think just my own personal opinion is the $200 on the noise seems a little more extreme than like the $100 on alcohols. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, yeah, we discussed that in the Public Safety Committee, and that's what we came up with. We thought, based on that. Again, that's open to debate. It's open to changing.
If the committee reviewed and approved, I'm good. I think it's something, I don't think it's that big of a deal or any reason why we should hold up the public hearing. Maybe just something to look at consistency wise going forward.
Yeah, these ordinances were all created at different times over a span of many years, and that's part of it as well.
Chief, it's on the waiver fine of $200 on noise ordinance. If the board thought it was the consistency with the alcohol waiver, but you had somebody who was offending on multiple accounts, is there discretion to have a higher level waiver for a second or third offense?
We didn't put that in because it would have to be decided on if there was a conviction on the first one. You can't use a second offense without a conviction on the first. And that becomes a little untenable to try to figure that out. Most of the noise ordinances, again, one of the reasons for the higher fine is because there's usually people that it's bothering. It's keeping somebody up. There's something else going on. The alcohol is just, you're just doing a status offense that you're not supposed to be doing if you're underage or you got alcohol on public property. So we looked at the noise ordinance, especially for those in the college area where we've got some of the loud parties and things, especially repetitive ones, gets pretty, it stimulates a lot of anger. So we thought that fine was appropriate, at least to make a little bit of an impact.
And I'm assuming that they get a warning shot before they get written up the first time. Typically.
Yes, it's in the ordinance. The process in the ordinance. They have to be warned. We have to identify the responsible person. They're put on notice, and then we can go forward if that doesn't end.
Yeah, I think I follow that rationale. Okay, did we get a second on the alcohol and public property? I think so. Lindsay, did you second Farhad?
I moved. I don't know who seconded.
I think I did.
I have Lindsay as a second.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a second. So are there any further questions on the particular one of the alcohol? Then all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay, unanimous. Let's move to the noise ordinance, and this is an opportunity, Heather, if you would like to recommend an amendment. I do think there's some rationale that Chief has shared with us that would track for me.
I don't think that I think given what Chief Hanley has provided for information on that, I support that. And I think the public health and safety has probably already had a good conversation, although I have to admit I didn't review their minutes in detail, but I'm good with it. I think what Chief Hanley shared sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, and I think this came out of from 2019, so it's been waiting for us to act upon it for a while. So if there are no other questions, yes, Lindsay.
Sorry, I don't want to hold us up. Wait, yeah, because we're on to the noise ordinance.
Noise
right?
ordinance, yes.
Okay, just making sure. my tablet over here jumps around. I'm just curious, and I don't want to hold it up, but I'm just curious if this would pertain to firearm noise.
Yeah, if the noise is unreasonable, and a lot of that depends on the time of the day. It depends on other things. So yeah, any kind of noise. If it's
any noise,
legitimate activity. Again, we can't act unless there is a complaint. We can't initiate the noise ordinance. Somebody has to be aggrieved of it, let us know when we investigate it, and then make some kind of determination if it's legit or not, or reasonable or not. If it's a legitimate activity, it's in the middle of the day, probably not going to be a big issue. But again, we take the complaints and we look into it.
Okay, I was just curious.
Dan?
Yeah, Chief, on section 200 of the noise ordinance, it says safety, safety or within immediate vicinity. So is there a definition of what a noise or something that would, what's the definition of the immediate vicinity?
Good question. It's again, we take each individual case. If you're in a position proximate to this, that the noise is going to be bothering you. We look into it to see whether it's reasonable or not, the time of the day, what kind of noise it is. A guy running a weed whacker at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning is probably not going to be subject to the noise ordinance. He fires that up, at 3 in the morning, or running a chainsaw, and the guy down the street is being kept up by it, then that's a noise ordinance violation. So it all depends. We don't have a specific parameter as far as distance or anything like that.
Okay, I was just curious because it said immediate vicinity. That, if you can hear the noise, then I guess you're in the immediate vicinity, is which I've always equated to. But another question is, the Friday and Saturday night 1 a.m. is that, quiet hours 1 to 7? Is that reasonable? I'm in bed at 10, but I know it is for the college reasonable, but I'm not sure how the community feel about that 1 a.m. And then the other thing I would say, this is just a question about the enforcement of the ordinance. When there's a noise complaint and it's aimed at the college, which gets noisy, particularly it seems to come straight across the village to the Swift House Inn. Who handles those? Does the police department or does the safety department of the college handle those?
We will get the initial call sometimes, and then we'll talk to the public safety department and have them relay messages to either cut things down. I know I can hear them at my house out on Butternut Ridge. Yeah. I mean, the sound travels that jump across Brush Hill and out east. But yeah, again, everything is dependent on circumstance. If there's a lot of noise, we get noise complaints, we investigate it, and we usually take some kind of action.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious. Obviously, I might have been a regular Saturday night call, being in the quiet hospitality industry, but I was just handled differently in several times. And there was occasions where I was told that I had to call the safety department and call the safety department, and lo and behold, the safety department would say, "We don't know where the noise is coming from." I suggested they go 2 buildings over from where they were to check where it was. So it just seems to be handled differently in enforcement, and I don't mean to hold anything else up.
No, we're responsible for enforcement of the noise ordinance, and you should, again, we have dispatch that comes out of the state police, after 11, so I don't know what kind of response you're gonna get from them. If it's here, we will look into it. We don't lay everything off on public safety.
Okay. Thank you. I still don't like 1 a.m., by the way.
That's existing though. We're not changing that. So
It's quieter over here in Helping Road. So
okay. Any other questions? If not, pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of noise as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify with a thumbs up. Okay, the next is 9C, commercial activity on public property. Any questions on that? If not, pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance to regulate commercial activity on public property as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify with a thumbs up. Okay, next is 9D, the bike ordinance. The major substantive changes here. Chief went through with us. Any questions on those? If not, pleasure of the, yep, Dan?
yeah, I'm frantically looking for it. I didn't understand the part of it that said riding 2 bikes to a lane, when that was permissible and when it wasn't permissible, and I'm frantically looking for it. But it didn't. I don't think I understood it.
Yeah, basically you can't interfere with traffic by doing that. If you're on Munger Street and you're riding 2 abreast, nobody cares. If you're on Seminary Street Extension at the S curves and you're riding 2 abreast, yeah, you're interfering with traffic just by the virtue of the fact that you've got a blind corner there. That's essentially what that is. This was a ordinance was put together 5 years ago, maybe, by a lot of the bike community, and they like that riding abreast. We don't like riding abreast of the road, so we had some compromises in the creation of this ordinance. Has not been a problem.
Okay.
So we didn't see any need to delve any further into that. But that was part of the creation of the ordinance back 5 or 6 years ago. It might have been even more than that.
Okay, I have a question about enforcement. I know it says that and I understand this because I'm a bicycle rider, is that bicycles abide by the same laws as a motor vehicle. My big complaint is in town that bicycle riders blaze through stop signs all the time and make me look bad. And do you guys ever at least give a stink eye to somebody doing that, beep a horn or anything?
Oh yes, and going the wrong way on College Street.
Yeah,
well.
it just makes me look bad, and I've been yelled at just for riding on a bike because somebody ran a stop sign before me.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it is a problem. Most people will obey the rules. They'll do a California roll through a stop sign. That's not a problem. It's the guy that just completely ignores the stop sign or rides the wrong way on College Street when they come down the hill. That's going to end up in a disaster one of these days. So yeah, it's difficult with a police car to go after a bicycle that's taken a right turn and disappeared somewhere. But when we can, we write very few tickets on it. We really don't need to. It's just letting them know what these laws are on the bikes.
Okay, thank you.
Lindsay?
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to hold us up too much, but I'm just curious, Chief, is any of this covered by the state, and does this ordinance mirror some of the rules that the state might have out for bicycle use?
The particulars are out of ordinance. The part about the bikes they're a vehicle and they have to abide by all the regular rules of the road. That's in statute as well.
Okay.
And nothing in this ordinance is in conflict with those statutes.
Right. Does the state statute cover riding 2 abreast? Like, is that something that's going to change from town to town if somebody were riding, from Ripton through to Vergennes or something?
I don't believe the statute covers that. It's just about interfering with traffic.
Okay. Again, just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
Brian, before you move on to the vote, Laura Sermily has a hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, thanks. I just want to say how much I appreciate this ordinance, and particularly Article 3, the operation of bicycles and other rideable devices on roadways. I just want to point your attention to that as a board and to those that are watching tonight, because it gives very good direction on how to behave on the road with a bicycle or other rideable device. And the chief is correct. Everything is in compliance with what the state says. And Lizzie, to your point about riding two abreast, the state doesn't really direct that, but the idea is to try to not obstruct traffic. But there are times when you do become traffic, and that a bicycle is traffic. And I experience that regularly because I ride my bike like traffic. And so I just want to say that sometimes cyclists see that it's more efficient to get through traffic by riding two abreast, like that they're going to be not obstructing traffic as fast when they do that. Other times they're just really hogging it, so hopefully they're exercising good judgment. Like Dan, I really am annoyed when there isn't good judgment on the part of cyclists, but the Article 3 really does give us good direction. So a cyclist can claim the lane if they're going to negotiate a left-hand turn, for example, or if there's debris in the shoulder, so they can't ride to the right most as much as they can. And that's true right now, where there's a lot of debris in our shoulders because of the winter. And we know that we just have to wait until those shoulders can be cleared, and hopefully we get to them sooner rather than later. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out so that, again, those that are watching tonight do understand that we do have very clear direction in the ordinance for how you're supposed to behave with a bicycle or other rideable device. So we do teach that to kids all the time as well. And it's very exciting, actually, to see how many are out there on bicycles even through our winter. Even this morning, I noticed quite a few. And they're on the sidewalks because the shoulders are messy right now. And it is okay to ride on our sidewalks as long as we know as cyclists that we're supposed to yield to pedestrians. You always yield to the pedestrian. And that's what I want to emphasize again tonight. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for the safe operation of bicycles and other rideable devices as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next is fires and burning. Questions on fires and burning? Pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the proposed ordinance for the regulation of fires and burning as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next is collection and disposal of solid waste. Any questions on that? Pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance regulating the collection and disposal of solid waste as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next is East Middlebury speed limit amendments. Any questions on that? Pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of speed as presented.
Second.
Dan.
I just have quick question. Section 5, 40-mile speed limit. The first one, East Main Street entrance ramp to US 7 northbound. Is that just the entrance ramp?
Yeah, that's a little slip lane coming off.
Okay. And so there's actually so that slip lane like that is not the same speed as the highway you're entering on?
It's coming off the 40-mile speed from East Main Street. The state identified that as a separate roadway. We have an ordinance, but because the state did it, we figured we just mirror what the state did. They consider that slip lane as a separate road.
Wow, okay.
They identify it by geo coordinates.
Wow,
I elected not to do that. Just call it the slip lane or the entrance ramp.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, pleasure of the board.
Brian, I'm sorry.
I think there was a motion already.
Okay.
Brian, do you want to take a comment from Victoria DeWind?
Sure.
She just put her hand up.
Okay.
Victoria, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you. On that slip lane, it's hard to blend into traffic that's moving at 50 miles an hour if you're only allowed to go 40 and you're going to slow people down that are coming up behind you. And it's really just such a short section of road. You're trying to gain speed so that you can blend. It seems like an odd thing for the state to do.
Yeah, but that's what they did. It's not posted. It's just, I guess they don't want people speeding up there when there's potentially not granting the right of way to other traffic. I don't know. I didn't get the logic that went with it. I just got the geo coordinates.
Okay.
It was my point too. So.
I think I'm hearing that's not necessarily the prime enforcement target for the Middlebury Police Department. Okay, all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Next is traffic signs, Merchants Row amendments. Any questions on that? Okay, pleasure of the board.
Brian, I'm sorry. Victoria has her hand up again.
Okay.
Thank you again. The Merchants Row coming up the hill into Court Square, I wonder, by making that a stop rather than the yield that it is now, I worry about cars having to stop on that hill, especially in icy conditions. Whereas you have momentum to keep going, you get a pretty good view of the intersection, unless there's a really high snowbank, but we haven't had that too much. And I'm wondering, is there a significant accident history at that intersection for cars coming up Merchants Row?
No, Victoria, there isn't. In our discussions, we were a little bit torn on that. The problem is there's a crosswalk there with some limited visibility with the fence, and you're also crossing essentially 3 lanes of traffic. We looked at winter maintenance, especially this winter, and we didn't see any issues with people slipping and sliding going up there. And we thought if we're going to err more on the side of safety. You also have cars coming from the right that have a stop sign that may not be aware that you have a yield sign. I know it's been there forever, but there could be some potential conflicts. We'd go either way. That the committee generally recommended to go with a stop sign there.
Well, the yield sign has worked ever since I've lived here. So, and it just keeps traffic moving. And anyway, but it's just a thought. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Kathleen, did I get the motion?
No.
Okay. I don't have anybody with the motion.
A pleasure of the board on this.
I'll move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for regulation of traffic lights and traffic signs as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. And we will then, having done all this, need to have a public hearing. So a motion to warn the public hearing would be in order.
In accordance with 24 VSA 127 through 107, I move to warn a public hearing during the Select Board's regular meeting on Tuesday. Which date? So we'll have to fill that in. To take testimony on the town ordinance amendments approved by the board on March 9th, 2021, prior to the final adoption of the ordinances. So can we do that on the second meeting in March?
I think in order to get it properly advertised in the paper, that we should take the conservative route and put it towards the first meeting in April, which is April 13th.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll amend my motion to make that Tuesday, April 13th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Thanks a lot, Chief.
You're welcome.
Then Lindsay for Hod and Dan, I will turn it over to you to review the DEI work group's progress.
Okay, thank you. I can get us kicked off, I guess. I hope everybody has had a chance to look through all of the documents. There's been a lot of back and forth with the DEI group and with Tabitha and Lisa. I think we've come to some understanding and have a good proposal in front of us. I really appreciate all of the input that people have given, and I realize that it's also, it can be a little bit of a sensitive topic, and sometimes people are a little bit nervous to be critical, so I really appreciate that people have made an effort to reach out if they were worried about something. I think our group feels really good about what we have, and we're hoping we can move forward, and we're hoping we can answer any questions that the board or the public might have at this point.
Can
Is that me or Brian?
I'm sorry, I was muted, Heather.
I just wanted to say that I think Dan and Farhad and Lindsay have done a tremendous job of vetting this proposal and working out the details. And I really just want to say I appreciate their time and effort. I know there was some concern initially with this proposal and the idea that it's a sole source. But I think they've done a tremendous job of vetting the proposal and getting us to something that I think that I'm good with, that I feel comfortable with. So thank you for taking that time and putting that effort into doing that work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather.
I think, Lindsay, I think, I think we beat the agreement to death, actually, is what we've done. But I also, I think the payment schedule that Kathleen worked out for us, I think is a very reasonable and Nick, more in line with probably what you would expect on a normal contract, and that we've capped any of those extras at $3,000 to place limits on this contract. So I think those are all things that you asked for, that we've given, and it's very interesting. I'll point it out, and Lindsay and Farhad and I today went back and forth. Kathleen has done a very extensive kind of a matrix of the impact this is going to have on the staff, but I will quote Kathleen as saying, it doesn't. We're going to have to do this, and we all believe that. But the impact on the staff is obviously significant. It's about a half a person your total hours, and it's about 10% of Kathleen's time and 10% of the chief's time. Hopefully, when we set up a committee and have a very active committee, that will ease the burden, but and I'm sure this is worst case, but this pretty much is necessitating an involvement of almost all the senior staff in the and just about everybody actually in the town, particularly the police department, which I think is also very important to have all the workings going on at that level, and having the town staff actually help create what we need to have created and understand it. So those are some interesting things that we've been discussing at 7:30 in the morning, and I just thought I'd point those out to maybe answer some questions that Nick might be getting ready to ask.
Whatever do you mean, Dan? No, I mean, it comes back down to, and as I said before, and I've had a chance to talk with Dan and Farhad and Lindsay, and there's no question you did good work. You did what we asked to. It still comes down to me of two items. Equity. Wholeheartedly agree with the importance of the issue and the fairness and justice. There's no question about that. I'm still not convinced that we follow policy and procedures, and in fact, we just voted to agree the select board operating principles, and actually, I don't think we quite followed item 2B, which is where we involve the town manager in the process to determine how, in fact, it will impact her staff. And as we see, it's pretty substantial. I mean, looking at alone for Kathleen, it's 225 hours of her time, which is, in a 40-hour week is 5.6 or 6 weeks. But since we know that Kathleen puts in a whole lot more hours per week, it's probably 1.5 weeks, of her time. But I just think that the way we went about it could have been done better, and certainly would made me more confident. However, again, as Lindsay, Farhad, and Dan, you did the job we asked you to. There's a couple of questions I still have outstanding though. One of them is hourly rates. If we look at, for example, in the attachment A, scope of work activity 1 of coaching, and so the proposal says up to 15 hours. Well, what if we, during the process, say we really need 20 or 25 hours because we're not accomplishing it? What is the impact on that? What's the hourly rate? Haven't seen anything. And then conversely, what if less time is needed? Is there a fee reduction? So that's one of those items in there. I was actually also reviewing the letter from David Stoll, and he made some interesting points. But I don't have expertise to really say one way or another. I do know that in a lot of federal and state funded projects, items such as stipends are frequently frowned upon. But I do see we have the 3,000 set aside. So I think what's going to be important in this is that whoever from the town is managing the project, that they approve any of that spending of that 3,000 to make sure that we accurately reflect the needs of the community. And one of them was, for example, translation, language translation. Well, one of the minority languages we have in Middlebury is Bosnian. We've had a large number of Bosnian immigrants who've come in through the years, and they're wonderful people, a wonderful part of Middlebury's fabric. But we want to make sure certainly that if any of them have difficulty with English, that they are recognized. I think it's also fair to assume that we'll receive regular progress updates to make sure that in fact this is achieving this all important goal. And then the final thing I ask is, which I didn't hear, do we actually have the funding fully budgeted for this? It seems like last I heard there was around 2/3 of the money was aside, so we didn't have the completion of that. Do we have the money? And that's all I have.
We will, it's going to be a stretch. It's going to take all of our training money, all of the town managers' contractual services, which we generally use some of for projects that come up during the year or whatever. So it's going to take all of that, all of our organizational development budget for the next 3 fiscal years, and all of our miscellaneous funds for the year, for the 3 years. We'll also need to find some additional funding through grants for next fiscal year.
And that's the kind of stuff that really just makes me, I have to say, my 11 years on the board, I can't think of any professional service proposal that's kept me up more at night than this one. And it's because of those issues. It's not the issue of the importance of equity and justice. It's this fact that we didn't follow policies, and there's a classic example. So I hope this is a lesson learned, and that we don't do this again, because I want to be really overly enthusiastic and joyous about what we're doing, but because of these couple items that, again, we've gone against policy that serves us well. It just makes me uncomfortable, and it's not just me. I've heard from so many people after the last discussion we had on this one. My phone rang off the hook the next day with people said, what are you guys doing? You're not following the agreements and the rules that you had set up. And so that's what really has bothered me about it. And again, I bounce back and forth so many times of which way I'm going to vote, and I'll probably know in the next 30 seconds. But there's nothing negative against the work that Farhad, Dan, and Lindsay have done. You've cleared it out, gave us more food for thought, and so guess we proceed onward.
Dan.
Yeah, I think we've done exactly what we were asked to do, and we're making a proposal. It's up to us as the board to decide. If there's a dissent, that's fine. Ironically enough, I sit on the DEI board. I haven't had anybody call me, anybody tell me anything, anybody say anything to me about the whole process. So I don't understand that. And Kathleen, that's the first time I've heard you talk about where the money was going to come from. And we just did a budget process for a majority for this next year. Why didn't we have a separate line item in the budget for next year, or because that's where the majority of the funding is going to come from?
Sure. When we were creating the budget, we were more on a course to start earlier, and we would have had more of the money in hand for working this fiscal year. But as the timing has worked out, it got shifted to FY22, which is next fiscal year. So.
Lindsay.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to maybe address some of the things that we're talking about here. And again, I really appreciate the concerns. I think they're valid. For starters, I did check with Kathleen about whether or not we had followed policy in our decision to go with this particular, or the working group's decision to put forth this particular duo of consultants for this work. And my understanding is that we didn't actually break our policy. We have different categories for how we go about hiring a consultant, and for the category that this would fall under, it's completely at the board's discretion. And Kathleen, stop me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of our own internal policies is that it is our discretion to choose the consultants for this type of work that we feel best serves us as a town. Nick, I can't remember what you had another, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, the cost. I just wanted to put out there, I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is a lot of staff time, and this is not something that we planned 3 years out. I think what we're seeing on a national level and what we're seeing locally is, that this conversation is very overdue, and that people are frustrated because this conversation is very overdue, and that real harm comes to our communities when we don't address it. So in my ideal version of things, this is something we could have looked out, a couple years in advance, the way we do other things. We would all know what was coming. We would all be prepared. We would all have set aside time and energy and resources for this. That would be ideal. And that's not what happened. Our community spoke up and asked for us to take action now. And I think it's the right thing to do for us to do this. I don't want to sugarcoat the cost. This is not an insignificant cost. Heather knows we've got infrastructure on Thursday, and our low bid for the culvert for Katy Road comes in at about what the sticker price is for this proposal plus staff time. Farhad had done the math and worked out that this is probably, you know, in real dollar terms, something that's going to cost the town between $55,000 and $60,000. Let's not sugarcoat that. That's a lot of money. I think we're spending it wisely. I think we're opening ourselves up to, you know, unfortunate circumstances, discord, if we don't move forward with this. And I think it's just the right thing to do. And I think it's very much been community led. You know, we're here in part because our community has been having this conversation for some time. Yeah, I guess that's all I had to say at the moment. But I'm really happy to field any questions if people have, you know, if people have additional questions after this meeting. You know, I don't want anyone to feel like they can't come forward with their concerns. We have weighed them all very carefully. We have thought about this very carefully. We have had many, many meetings very early in the morning to discuss these things. So, you know, and my sense from Kathleen, and I know I've asked her probably a dozen times, you know, if she feels capable of this at this time. I've asked the same thing of Chief Hanley. You know, they both feel, I don't want to speak for either of them. Kathleen, stop me. But, you know, every time I've asked, you know, are we going forward with this? Do you feel good about this? The answer is, you know, this is something we have to do and we will make it work. So I feel fortunate that we have staff that are capable and ready to wade into what is going to be a difficult conversation.
Dan.
Yeah, I second everything Lindsay says, but I think this is one of our biggest priorities for the next year, and as being one of our town's biggest priorities, it comes at a relatively low cost of what we're investing in money and time wise compared to other projects. We're very good as a select board voting on you know $1 million road projects and paving and stuff like that. This is squishy. I mean, this is so important. And Nick, we didn't violate our own policy of 2B because we have consulted with Kathleen and she has shown us what the impact is, and it's going to be an impact, and we know that, and there's a cost to that impact. But this is kind of like a sunk cost. It's a cost that we're already going to pay for no matter what. We're just going to utilize town staff times in a different way to take care of a very, very important project. And it's not nuts and bolts. It's people. It's all about people, and it's a different kind of cost.
Nick.
Well, I think Dan, you know, the thing that gives me the most confidence in it, and yeah, and again, I've got still some items with the proposal, but I'm not going to deal with it. It's not worth it. The thing that gives me confidence is the fact that we have, you know, outstanding town management between Kathleen and Chief Hanley, who will be overseeing it, and I will trust that they will keep it focused toward the end goal. And if it's not going well, then we try a different course. But as far as the 2B item, it's actually what would have been appropriate was even before we got to the point of heading down this road, we would have had a good discussion of what we were really trying to achieve. I mean, one of the ideas we had talked about in the very beginning was to have a colloquium, if you will, where we would kind of get an understanding of the basis of the problem so that we could then come up with a good way to proceed. And then we ended up somehow with this you know, $32,000 plus proposal. But what would have been appropriate is to, in the very beginning, to also, you know, consultation with our town manager and say, okay, if we proceed with this, early on, before we even get it going further along, is this, how does this impact your schedule as a whole and the operations of the whole? So that's why I have a disagreement with you, Dan. But again, we've hashed this thing back and forth, and you know, there's no question the basic substance of it is the right thing to do. And the other items, well, I've talked about them enough. I don't need to say any more. So I'm done with my discussion on the item for now.
I'd like to just say a couple things on it. You know, the staff time analysis kind of brings to light. To me, this is not a one-time battle. This is more like a prolonged conflict, and something that we should be looking at. How do we make substantive change so that the money doesn't go to just educating a few of us? And while I look forward to the process, I also think I beg to differ with you a little bit, Dan, in that I don't think it's our top priority. I think it's a high priority, but the governance of the town is our top priority, and ensuring the infrastructure and so many other things. And those all take a lot of time. And there's stuff that's going to be discussed in our retreat that's kind of new and coming, which is there is significant monies in the justification of which and the oversight of which is going to take a significant amount of Kathleen's time. So I love the passion I see. I love the fact that we are in our small community grappling with a national issue and trying to do more than I think some of the national leaders are doing. This is all good stuff, but I think that we need to be very cognizant of the fact that our staff is got a full plate, and that we approach this as a prolonged conflict. And so, you know, a weekly meeting isn't held by any of our committees. You needed to do that to get to where you are, but I would ask you to put together a plan that we can continue over a period of time and doesn't burn you and doesn't burn the staff out. I think in all fairness to everybody involved. And then, you know, hopefully working with Tabitha, one of our biggest objectives should be to create something that's sustaining and actually does bring about maybe some systemic change, and something that we feel good about having spent the money when it comes to the end of the process. So I'll just my take on it, and for what it's worth. If there's any other questions or comments, if not, I would seek a motion or pleasure of the board.
Brian, if you are ready to take questions from the audience, we have several hands that are up.
Sure.
First up, Joanna Colwell. Joanna, go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. I just want to speak up in gratitude to Farhad and Dan and Lindsay for taking this on. I know this has been a really big project, and I'm speaking as somebody who works with Showing Up for Racial Justice, which is a national organization, but we have a chapter in Middlebury since 2015. We have about 450 people on our email list. Some of those are super active members who do a lot for racial equity in the state, and some people are more, you know, peripheral. They care about racial justice and they're trying to get educated. A really big range of people in our group, and people really support this initiative. So those are, you know, 450 Addison County residents who want to see this happen. So I know that sometimes people aren't always great about contacting their select board people. Lindsay's my neighbor, so I see her in the yard. We talk about stuff like this, but I just want to really speak out on behalf of those 450 showing up for racial justice members to say, thank you for doing this. We need it. It's long overdue. And anti-racist education is not something that is like one and done, you know, oh, I'm going to do this year, then it's done. It's our lifelong project. And the deeper we get into it, the more that we see that we can learn and we see the value of it, because it's really about becoming a more whole human being. And the deeper we get into that, I think the more we see how we all benefit from it. Everybody benefits from this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Who's next, Chris?
Next, we have an email address, salavi@middlebury.edu. If you would please, before you make your comment, please state your name for the meeting minutes. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm Seppi. I can't actually change that without having like my screen up. So since we're not allowed to like have our faces, I can't change the name. I think I just want to echo a fair bit of what Joanna was just saying, and Lindsay and Dan. I do think this is essential. I think that for too long nationally, it's been ignored. And I kind of agree with Dan in that I think this is an incredibly important issue in our town. And I think largely because I have found in my 12 years here, being somebody who is not white, there is this myth of exceptionalism in Vermont, very much so in Middlebury, often called the Shire. And I think it's just very important for all of us to have access to kind of to these conversations and these paths that will help us understand how to shift our way, because we're just kind of all in the same thing. We're all in the same system. And I would also like to say that while the money is a lot, but I also think that it's not that much. And I think it's essential, part of this conversation that we've been having nationally, is to pay Black women for their work. We've been talking about the work, and there's been a lot of work put into these conversations in town so far that have been unpaid. It's been people's donated time and research and efforts. And so I really appreciate the fact that the select board is working to pay Black women for this essential work, and especially Black women that have been treated very badly in Vermont. Just the history of Tabitha and Kaya's been very rough here. And so I think it's wonderful that this is something that we're working towards. That's all.
Thank you, Seppi.
Next is Emily Joselson. Emily, go ahead, please.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. Thank you all. I echo everyone else supporting this direction. I respectfully but strenuously disagree with Nick's concerns. It seems clear the process was followed, and I just think there's no more important work than each of us learning about how our country is built on systemic racism, and our biases are bred in us from birth. And unless we all start opening our minds and our hearts to how this has impacted us in our lives and how it impacts us going forward, it impacts everything that we do, including all the important work that you do as a board, for which I am eternally grateful. So I hope that this process is as public as we can make it, because you guys are being leaders on this, and, you know, to address the concerns that this not just, you know, be a training of a few people. This should be as public as possible so that as many of us can benefit, you know, with reading lists and links to important things to think about and opportunities for community discussions. You know, we can do community government partnerships, about, continuing the conversation, because it's clearly not, as someone said, one shot and you're done. This is a lifelong process that we're embarking on, and you're providing leadership in how to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
And lastly, for now, at least, we have Katie Gillespie.
Okay.
Katie, go ahead, please.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, I just wanted to echo what everyone else has said, and to voice my strong support for this proposal. I think we're overdue for this conversation, and I think hiring experts to lead us in this work is absolutely the way to go. So I would urge you all to vote yes, and very much thank Dan and Lindsay and Farhad for doing this work to set it up.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Esther.
Hi. As I read through the additional documents and the agreement, I was just very impressed with all the work that Lindsay, Farhad, and Dan that you've done. This being a priority, it's not the main priority, but this being a priority gives me confidence in being a resident here and wanting to stay here. Not only for me, but for my children. Having a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, I came here and a lot of folks told me, hey, have a 5-year exit plan. But I said, no, I want to be here. I want to stay here, and I want to be a part of the shift. So to see that this is a priority gives me confidence in our town. And so thank you for the work that you've put in.
Farhad.
Yeah, hey, thank you everybody for all the support. I just want to make a comment on everything everybody has said. And nobody on the board, I believe, is against this. Everybody wants to move this forward. I just also want to acknowledge that there is a staff time involved, and it's a considerable amount of time the staff has to go through. It's an overburden on them, I think, and we have to acknowledge that. We cannot just move forward and say we don't care what it costs. If it costs so much, we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. We're going to figure out how we are going to ease the burden on the staff. Maybe the long-term committee might help, but I want to acknowledge that it's going to cost us this much staff time, and we have to find a way to work around it, I think.
Thanks, Farhad. I think we're ready for a motion.
So, yeah, I'll move to authorize Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign the letter of agreement with Tabitha Moore Consulting LLC and Lisa Ryan, agreeing to the scope of work as outlined for a total fee of $32,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any other comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Farhad, would you care to make the second motion?
Yep. I also move to approve the payment schedule proposal for the contract with Tabitha Moore Consulting LLC and Lisa Ryan.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And this is the proposal that you've planned for, Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Farhad?
We also have a select board statement resolution for the DEI work. I hope everybody has gone through it, and if everybody is okay with it, I want to make a motion unless somebody has a comment before that.
Any comments or questions on that? They've been working hard on it. Farhad's wordsmithed it, and or somebody's wordsmithed it. I think I was getting my emails from Farhad. And Lindsay?
Yeah, no, just before we go forward, I just wanted to say that I think this is also something that we see ourselves updating we hope that it's something that shows accountability to the town and can stand, for a while. But if as we go forward, we decide that we need to make adjustments, we'll be open to that. But we're looking to make a commitment to the town, in a public way. So, and all the work fell on Farhad. He was amazing.
No. I think Kathleen had the foundation started, so we worked on that. So let's all take credit for that. How about that? So I'll move to sign the Middlebury Selectboard Statement of Equity and Racial Justice.
Second.
All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Well, thank you for that very robust and great interactive discussion. And I think that we've got a plan to move us forward, and I look forward to working with Tabitha, myself, and broadening my scope. So let's hope. Go ahead, Lindsay.
All right, just before we moved on, I just again wanted to thank everybody who's brought forward concerns or thoughts or support for this. This is always going to be tricky. There's nothing that we do as a board, there's no project that we do as a town that is going to have unanimous approval and that everybody is going to feel good about. The question is, are we doing things for the greater good? Are we being responsive to the community? And I think in this case, we really are. But we're spreading this work over a long period of time. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to continue shifting things and tailoring things to meet our needs. So I just hope that everybody feels that they can continue to come forward, because that will only help, as we've seen, that will only help us hone our work and make this make this work more productive in the end. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Are Karen and Amy with us, Chris?
Karen, let me bring her in.
Hey, Karen.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Esther. Nice to see you. Congratulations.
So take it away, Karen.
Kathleen and I have worked on an MOU between the BNP and the town of Middlebury. It's been reviewed by the BNP's executive committee and I believe been reviewed by Benj Putnam for the town as well as Kathleen, and it needs your approval tonight.
Questions, Nick?
Karen, have you moved from the afternoon meeting today?
No.
No, it actually is.
This is where I sit all day, every day.
that mouse is gone now.
That's good.
No, actually, it was a little joke we had there, but I had the opportunity and the pleasure to sit in today with the first of the Kickstart meetings, and it is, one, it's a great group of people who are involved with it. The energy that's coming out of this, I can't see how this is not going to succeed. This is just fantastic, and I think it's going to be money well spent, and I think it's going to be an ongoing program. I'm fully confident in that, and our town's going to look really, really good, even more good than it does right now. So, so thanks for all the work. So I wholeheartedly endorse this.
Lindsay.
I just wanted to say I did not get to sit on the meeting, but
it was really good, Lindsay. You should have been there.
Next time. I don't have enough meetings.
Right.
I just wanted to say how impressed I have been with the written materials. Everything is coming together so nicely. I wanna apply, even though I have absolutely no business idea whatsoever. But I find it to be very inviting and very positive. As always, all the work we see coming from the BMP tends to be just top notch. So my one question is, I'm curious if your intent is to give the candidates the rubric for them to follow, or are you? Okay, I wasn't sure if you were trying to weed people out or.
No, so the initial plan is beginning next Monday through April 9th will be an open period to receive letters of interest with an idea. From there, the panel will narrow it down to up to 10 finalists. And we want to be really clear with those finalists as to exactly what the criteria is. We're really trying, our view in all of this as a panel is to be as supportive as possible to try to set people up for success. And so, we definitely want to make sure that we're being really transparent about this process and exactly what it is that we're looking for from these potential businesses. And then, one of the things that came out of our discussion today was just about the possibilities as far as, somebody who may not be ready for one of these spaces, but potentially has a really great idea. And so how could we as a group help them, to take that idea further? So I'm really excited about Kickstart. I think that it's just the right time and the right people have all come together and the right circumstances, and it feels like we could do something really great. So I'm so happy to have your support, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get.
Farhad.
Yeah, Karen, I'm excited too.
Farhad.
Also, I'm so glad that you got Nick in your corner now.
Thanks to you.
I'm trying to figure what I did, but I got that. You somehow I must have owed you for something, Farhad. but it is an honor. No jokes aside. Thanks for setting me up.
Just to point out, there's a little typo in the document, Karen, on 2C.
Okay.
The remainder amount should be 30,000, right?
Yep.
It says 50 here, just to.
So the up to is 50, broken into 10 per business, with the idea of it being most likely 30, so 3 businesses, 10 for marketing, and 10 for supplemental business support.
I understand that, but
okay.
The A and B talks about $10,000 being spent of each. The remainder should be 30, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I'll fix that.
So, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Ryan, it looks like Amy Ryan has joined the meeting. I'm going to bring her in as a panelist.
Okay. Good evening, Amy.
Hi there. I've been here all along, just so you know.
I thought maybe you had gone to make popcorn because you thought we were going to keep talking on other issues. So,
well, it is an hour past my bedtime, but I stayed up just for this. I just wanted to say again, thank you to the select board for the support. It means a lot to us, and I want to give a lot of the credit to Karen for moving this forward and creating these documents, getting them to Kathleen in a timely manner. I also want to just mention, I was going to say off the record, but I guess this is on the record. The program has, the materials that have been exposed to the public thus far has created a significant, I would say, a significant buzz around town. And I've had inquiries from people. I've had opportunities to talk to people who have existing businesses who might want to expand into Middlebury. And just today I talked to a local person who offered to make connections from, with existing businesses to other financial support in addition to what the town of Middlebury is offering. So I think there's a real appetite for people who have an investment or philanthropic way about them that really want to help Middlebury. And I think the select board's approval of this $50,000 is going to come back to Middlebury in multiples. I don't know how many, but I really do think that this was the catalyst that's going to move things forward. And I think we're all going to be surprised at the outpouring of support that we see from people in the area and in the community.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Are there any other questions, comments? Lindsay?
You
guys just want to meet really late into the night again, right?
We do. No, it's I did have a chance to look at the website, and I was just going to say, I kind of appreciate the soft launch because I think it got you out there. I know everything's not put together yet, but I think sometimes the little teaser is intriguing for people. So I thought that was a good move to have it up.
And we will be doing much more this week. So it'll be the hard launch towards the end of this week.
The indications are that the economy is going to continue. It's going to be one of the fastest recoveries. So let's hope that Middlebury can capitalize upon that.
Definitely.
All right, pleasure of the board.
Pleasure. I move to authorize Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Better Middlebury Partnership for the Kickstart Middlebury program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay, Amy, just so you know, it's about as on the record as you can get because it's not only broadcast, but it's taped. So your articulate responses were well played. Thank you for joining us this evening. And good luck. We hope you bring some new businesses to Middlebury.
We'll be back with an update.
Keep us informed. All right.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, budget?
Okay, so the budget reports for the year, for the period ending January 31st are in your packet. No change on the forecast for the end of the fiscal year. We're still tracking to end a little bit under budget on the expenditure side, due to some programmatic cutbacks, but also down on the revenues. With the legislation that's pending in Washington designed to offset some of those revenue losses, perhaps we'll end up better this year than we anticipated. The only note that I would make is that on the water fund, we have had significant overages, budget overages in the maintenance of mains category, which is pushing that budget.
Any questions on the budget of Kathleen? Okay. Audit report, Kathleen?
In your packet is the audit report and a letter from the auditors. Just to note that while we are certainly financially sound, we do have some accounting measures to continue to address. We've made some progress over the years and still have a little bit to go. I'm working with our accounting staff to address those issues.
Any questions on that? Yes, Heather.
I'm sure that I don't see Jackie here, but there's some abbreviations in her executive summary. Where is it? Under findings, the second bullet, first bullet under the second bullet, that's an open bullet, OPEB, and then GASB 68. When Jackie gets a chance, I just couldn't figure out what they meant. Could you just...
The first, I don't know, the OPEB is post-retirement benefits that we have to account for. And then the GASB 68 is the Government Accounting Standards Board provision that provides for those post-retirement benefits.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Any other questions on the audit? Okay, then I'm going to move to the town manager's contract, and we took up in executive session review of the town manager's contract, and we need to formalize. Kathleen updated the contract with our decisions and extended it 1 year. And so if the board is amenable to approving that for me to sign off on, I would solicit a motion. Farhad?
Yeah. I also want to include in the motion that how much we appreciate Kathleen being the town manager, and I will be privileged and happy to move to approve the 1 year extension to the town manager's contract.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, Brian. I doubly second the first part of that motion.
I know, we're pretty lucky.
Both of them, so.
I think it's pretty well recognized. Nick was flying. He sat beside Representative Welch, and Representative Welch commented that we were pretty fortunate to have Kathleen. So,
and I certainly didn't argue with him. And,
yeah.
and I did have to correct him and say we actually have the best.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of approving the motion signify with a thumbs up, please. 2 thumbs up. I like that. Okay, Farhad, you've got check warrants.
Yes, by the authority of the Select Board granted on April 28, 2020, I have reviewed and approved total expenditures of $273,740.34, consisting of $169,153.48 for accounts payable and $104,586.86 for payroll for the period of February 23, 2021 through March 9, 2021. And I move the board's approval of payments of these expenditures.
Second.
All in favor signify with a thumbs up. Okay. Kathleen?
Okay, one piece of town manager's report is the upcoming Select Board Institute on Wednesday, March 24th from 9 to 12. Anybody that is interested, just let me know. Esther has already booked her seat. And if anyone wants to join her, just let me know.
That's a Wednesday of March 24th, you said?
Yes.
I want to be in. Do I sign myself up or do you do that?
I take care of that.
I'll do it.
I'll do it too, Kathleen.
Okay.
Yeah, Kathleen, if you could add me also.
Okay.
Is that a webinar?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask a question that has to do with check warrants before we?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to be sure, since we're now into a new cycle, when we approved for one person to sign off on them, is that in perpetuity until we change it? I just wanted to be sure we didn't need to re-up that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Good to check.
Okay, board member concerns. Stan?
I'm all concerned out, I think, but it's a good meeting. I appreciate the discussions and thank you.
And you froze on my screen, so.
I have a tendency to do that to people.
Farhad?
Yeah, Kathleen, thank you for that email about the police service awards. I wanted to acknowledge Bill Austin and Jared Harrington for the services. The second thing, Esther Thomas, welcome to the board. You will be sitting here with us for the rest of the next year, I think. So welcome. The third thing is I just got hit by a deer on the side of my car coming home today. Nothing seems to happen to the car. I looked on the side. I don't see any damage. The deer walked off right on Airport Road. I was coming down very slow, and it just came and just ran into my car on the side. So that's all I got.
Did you get that on video, Farhad?
No.
It's like a stupid pet trick. So both the car and the deer are fine then, is what you're reporting?
It limped for a second and it walked off, and I came and look. I'm going to check it tomorrow morning to see if there's any real damage. I didn't see anything.
Scary though. Esther?
So happy to be here and excited to work with all of you and to learn and to grow, and honored. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Esther. Lindsay?
Yeah, I also wanted to welcome Esther. So glad to have you. And, I said a while ago when Victor first rotated off, I've had the pleasure of knowing Esther for a while. And those of you who haven't had a chance yet to get to know her, you're in for a treat. Honestly, she's a wonderful person. You will find out for yourselves, but I know she'll make a great team member here. And I just wanted to point out that we had two really strong candidates, both of whom garnered a lot of support from the town. And I was impressed with how both candidates ran their campaigns. Everything was so respectful and thoughtful. And I think the town is better off for having had a variety of conversations around this appointment. So I just wanted to also thank, even though I'm not sure that he's here, but Andy for a very well-run campaign, and he obviously has a lot of support also from the town. So I really hope it looks like he's going to continue to be involved, and I hope we see him again. And again, I just wanted to thank, specifically Chief Hanley and Kathleen for their early morning weekly attendance to the DEI work group meetings. It was a little grueling. I think when we first agreed to once a week, we had the expectation that, it was going to be something we could get through a little bit more quickly. And of course, as these things go, sometimes they drag out a bit. So I just wanted to especially thank them. They have been showing up consistently ready to work, and Dan and Farhad as well. But it's been a hard process, and Chief Hanley and Kathleen have been instrumental as always, and I just appreciate their time and effort.
Very, very committed and very supportive of us.
I second that.
Thanks, Lindsay. Nick?
I feel like I'm repeating what Fahad said, but I appreciate the memo that came out on Officers Austin and Harrington, and it just shows what happens when we have top-level management and results in bringing in top-level officers. Very, very proud of what they've done, and when I've come to know them all through the years and through the public safety parts, and they and every one of our officers are just first class and top notch, and we should all be proud of that. And Esther, also I want to express my welcome aboard. We have a variety of discussions, but what I want you to know comfortably is we're all friends. And the 11 plus years I've been on the boards, we've been friends. Everybody who's been on here have been friends, and that's what makes it work really well. I think Middlebury Selectboard and Middlebury governance should be a model for the national level, because we do it much better than they do, and I'm proud of that. And again, welcome aboard our new friend.
Thanks, Nick. Heather?
I have to echo another welcome to Esther. I'm so glad to have you here and a part of the board. I do just want to remind you that I'm happy to answer any questions or talk with you anytime. Any anxiety, concerns, anything, feel free to reach out, please. I'm happy to help with anything that might you might want to talk about related to select board or infrastructure committee. Also, I wanted to make a shout out, I'm assuming to Chris. This is the first time I've seen it, but I think it was there last time, was the link at the top of the agenda notes to take you back to the full packet. I didn't catch it, I think, in the last meeting, but I caught it in this one, and it was really handy to have that there. So thank you, Chris. So the little tweaks you keep making to, I'm assuming it's Chris, the little tweaks you keep making to this agenda note document for us is really appreciated, and I just wanted to give you a little shout out for that work. So thank you. Also, I got a gift from my place of work that I had to share with you all. I should have shared it a little sooner, but I think we all need. Can you read that? It says you're on remote. You're on mute. Sorry, you're on mute. It's backwards. But anyway, we were all gifted mugs that say you're on mute, because that's the world we live in right now, right? All these Zoom meetings and everybody starts talking and they're on mute. So just had to share that all with you. Thank you, everyone.
Nick needs that mug.
Actually, my favorite mug that I have, and I don't have it with me right now because it's downstairs, is my dear beloved daughter gave me one that says, "I love you more than my sibling."
Below bar.
Think about that one. Okay, thanks, Heather. Before we move to executive session, I too want to welcome you to the board, Esther, and ours is. I think you'll find everybody on the board has basically an open door office, in that at any time we're available for consult, or bouncing ideas off, questions, anything. And so I'm over on Exchange Street, and we are an essential business, so I've been there since they started the pandemic. So you can still find me in town if you have a question or want to find out something about what's going on the board, maybe in a historical context, so that help you understand it. Okay. Heather, can you take us into executive session, please?
I can. In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of legal and real estate matters would clearly place the select board at a substantial disadvantage, because the select board risks disclosing its litigation strategy if it discusses the legal and real estate matters in public.
Second.
All in favor with a thumbs up, please? Okay.
I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss legal and real estate matters under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
All in favor with thumbs up, please? Okay.